The rain fell in relentless sheets, turning the quiet streets of Evergreen into a glistening maze of puddles. Lily Harper squinted through her windshield, the rhythmic swish of the wipers barely keeping up with the downpour. It had been another long day at the clinic, and she was looking forward to nothing more than a cup of tea and her favorite blanket. But just as she turned onto the narrow road leading home, her headlights caught something unusual. At the edge of the road, near the dark silhouette of the woods, a small figure crouched, drenched and shivering. Lily's heart clenched as she slowed the car to a stop. Rolling down her window, she called out, "Hey, little one, are you okay?" The figure turned its head, and Lily gasped. It wasn't a child, as she'd initially thought, but a tiny, mud-covered puppy. Its fur was matted, its ribs faintly visible beneath its soaked coat. The puppy let out a sharp bark, its eyes fixed on her with an urgency she couldn't ignore. Lily quickly grabbed her raincoat and stepped out into the storm. The puppy darted toward her, barking again as if trying to convey something. "Hey, it's okay," she murmured, kneeling to extend a hand. The little dog hesitated for a moment, then nudged her fingers with its cold nose before tugging gently at her pant leg. "What is it?" Lily asked, her voice soft yet puzzled. The puppy barked once more and began trotting toward the woods, stopping every few steps to look back at her. It was as if the puppy was asking her to follow. All right, I'm coming," Lily said, her curiosity and concern mounting. She grabbed a flashlight from her car, clicking it on as she followed the small, determined creature into the dense forest. The trees loomed overhead, their branches swaying ominously in the wind. Mud sucked at her boots, and the sound of raindrops splattering against leaves filled the air. The puppy moved with surprising speed for something so small, pausing occasionally to glance back at her, as though making sure she was still there. "What's out here, little guy?" Lily muttered, shining her flashlight into the darkness. The beam of light caught glimpses of strange details, a piece of fabric snagged on a branch, faint scuff marks in the muddy ground. Her pulse quickened. Then she heard it. A faint, wavering sound carried through the storm, the unmistakable cry of a child. Lily froze, her heart pounding. The puppy barked again, more urgently this time, and darted ahead toward the sound. Without hesitation, Lily followed, her flashlight trembling slightly in her grip. As she pushed deeper into the woods, the cries grew louder, mingling with the relentless rhythm of the rain. The puppy finally stopped at the edge of a clearing, barking frantically and wagging its tail. Lily's flashlight illuminated a small figure huddled beneath a fallen tree. A little girl, soaked and shivering, clutching a teddy bear. "Dear God," Lily whispered, rushing forward. "Hey there, sweetheart. You're safe now." The puppy whimpered softly, curling up next to the girl as if to reassure her. But as Lily looked around the clearing, her relief was tinged with a growing unease. The campsite around them told a story she wasn't ready for, and she knew their journey into the woods was only just beginning. Lily knelt in the mud, her rain-soaked hands reaching out to the trembling child. The girl, no older than 8, looked up with wide, tear-filled eyes. Her lips were pale, and her tiny hands clutched a worn teddy bear so tightly the fabric was beginning to fray. The puppy, drenched but still determined, nuzzled against the girl as if urging Lily to hurry. "Hey there," Lily said softly, pushing aside her fear. "It's okay. You're safe now. My name's Lily. What's your name?" The girl hesitated before whispering, Emily, I'm going to help you, okay?" Lily's voice was calm, but her heart was racing. "Are you hurt?" Emily shook her head but didn't speak. Her eyes darted toward the shadows of the forest, as though she were expecting someone or something to emerge. The puppy stayed close, pressing its small body against Emily's side. Lily glanced around the makeshift campsite. It looked as though someone had hastily tried to set up shelter. A torn tarp strung between two trees, a few scattered items, a flashlight, an empty water bottle, a crumpled bag of trail mix. There was no sign of another person. "Emily," Lily said gently, "where's your mom? Were you with her?" The girl nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "She went to get help, but she didn't come back." Lily's stomach dropped. The woods were vast and treacherous, especially with the storm raging. If Emily's mother had gone looking for help and hadn't returned, she could be lost, or worse. But Lily couldn't let those thoughts consume her. Not yet. "Okay," Lily said, keeping her voice steady. "We're going to find her. But first, let's get you warm." She shrugged off her raincoat and wrapped it around Emily's small frame, ignoring the chill that seeped into her own skin. The puppy barked, breaking the tense silence. It was staring at the path ahead, its ears perked as if listening for something. Lily followed its gaze, straining to hear above the rain and wind. "Do you trust him?" Emily asked suddenly, her voice barely audible. Lily blinked at her. "The puppy?" Emily nodded. "He's smart. He found me when I was scared. He stayed with me, like he knew I needed him." Lily looked at the little dog, who now stared back at her with an intensity that was almost unnerving. "Yeah," Lily said finally. "I trust him." The puppy barked again and darted forward, stopping a few feet ahead to look back at them. Lily scooped Emily into her arms, the girl's small body cold and fragile against her own. "Let's see where he's taking us," she said. The trek deeper into the woods was slow and grueling. The rain had turned the ground into a slick, muddy mess, and Lily struggled to keep her footing while carrying Emily. The puppy moved with purpose, occasionally pausing to sniff the air or wait for them to catch up. "Do you know where we are, Emily?" Lily asked, trying to distract the girl from the cold and the fear that seemed to radiate from her. Emily shook her head. "We were hiking, but I don't remember how we got here. Mom said we'd be okay if we stayed by the trail, but then I fell asleep, and when I woke up, she was gone." Lily's throat tightened. She tried to imagine the fear this little girl must have felt, waking up alone in the middle of the woods with only a puppy for company. "You were very brave to stay here," she said. "And Buddy," she gestured toward the puppy, "he's a good little protector." Emily managed a faint smile. "That's what I named him, Buddy." "It suits him," Lily said. The rain began to ease, but the woods were still dark and foreboding. Lily's flashlight barely cut through the gloom, and every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig set her nerves on edge. She knew they needed to find shelter soon, or better yet, a way out of the forest altogether. After what felt like hours, Buddy stopped abruptly, his nose low to the ground. He sniffed a patch of mud and barked, tail wagging furiously. Lily stepped closer and shone her flashlight on the spot. At first, she didn't see anything unusual, but then she noticed the faint outline of a footprint, partially obscured by rain and mud. It was larger than Emily's, likely an adult's. "That could be your mom's," Lily said, trying to sound optimistic. She looked at Buddy, who seemed to confirm her suspicion by barking again and trotting ahead. They followed the trail of footprints, which grew clearer the further they went. Lily's heart lifted slightly. Maybe they were close. Maybe. A sharp cry pierced the air. Lily froze, clutching Emily tighter. "What was that?" she whispered. Emily's eyes widened. It sounded like Mom. Buddy bolted ahead, barking wildly. Lily hesitated for only a moment before following, her legs burning with the effort of running through the uneven terrain. They found her at the base of a ravine. Clara, Emily's mother, lay crumpled on the muddy ground, her face pale and streaked with dirt. Her left leg was bent at an unnatural angle, and she was barely conscious. "Mom!" Emily screamed, wriggling out of Lily's arms and scrambling down the slope toward her. "Careful!" Lily called, hurrying after her. She knelt beside Clara, quickly assessing her injuries. The broken leg was obvious, but there was also a gash on her forehead that had bled heavily. Clara's breathing was shallow, and her skin was cold to the touch. "Clara!" Lily said urgently, shaking her shoulder gently. "Can you hear me?" Clara's eyes fluttered open. "Emily!" she rasped. "I'm here, Mom!" Emily cried, clutching her mother's hand. Lily felt a wave of relief, but it was quickly replaced by the sobering reality of their situation. Clara was alive, but she was in bad shape. They needed to get her help, and fast. "Emily," Lily said, keeping her voice calm, "I need you to stay with your mom while I call for help." Emily nodded, her face pale but determined. Lily pulled out her phone, praying for a signal. She held it up, moving it around in the air until, finally, a single bar appeared. She quickly dialed 911, giving the dispatcher their approximate location and Clara's condition. "We'll send a search and rescue team right away," the dispatcher assured her. "Stay where you are and keep her warm." Lily ended the call and turned back to Emily. "Help is on the way," she said. But the temperature was dropping fast, and Lily knew they couldn't just sit and wait. Clara needed warmth and stability to avoid going into shock. "Buddy," she said, looking at the puppy. He was already curled up against Clara's side, his small body radiating warmth. "Good boy," she whispered. Lily quickly found a few larger branches nearby and used them to fashion a crude splint for Clara's leg. She tore strips from her own shirt to secure it, ignoring the sting of the cold against her skin. The rain began to pick up again, and the wind howled through the trees. Lily wrapped her arms around Emily, sheltering her as best she could. Buddy whimpered but stayed pressed against Clara, his tiny body unwavering in its determination to keep her warm. Hours passed, though it felt like an eternity. Lily's mind raced with worst-case scenarios, but she forced herself to focus. She talked to Emily about school, her favorite books, anything to keep the little girl distracted. Finally, the sound of voices broke through the storm. Flashlights danced through the trees, and a team of rescuers appeared, their bright orange jackets a beacon of hope. "We've got them!" one of the rescuers called, radioing the rest of the team. The team worked quickly, stabilizing Clara and preparing her for transport. Emily clung to her mother, crying tears of relief. Buddy barked happily, wagging his tail as if he understood that his job was done. For now. Lily felt her knees go weak as the adrenaline began to fade. But she couldn't stop yet. Clara's journey to safety was only just beginning, and there was still so much to do. The rescuers moved with practiced efficiency, strapping Clara into a stretcher and securing her leg with a more stable splint. Lily stayed close, holding Emily's hand tightly as the girl alternated between relief at seeing her mother alive and fear for what might happen next. "It's going to be okay," Lily said softly, though her gaze kept flicking to Clara's pale face. Clara was conscious but weak, her eyes fluttering shut every few moments before snapping open again. Buddy stayed by her side, his small body curled against her arm as though refusing to leave her. The lead rescuer, a burly man named Jackson, approached Lily. "The storm's picking up again," he said, his voice low but urgent. "We need to move quickly, but the terrain back to the main road is rough. Our vehicles can't get closer. We'll have to carry her through the woods." "How far is it?" Lily asked, her stomach nodding. "About a mile," Jackson replied. Normally, it'd take 20 minutes, but with the mud and the stretcher, it could take an hour or more. Lily nodded, determination hardening her features. "What can I do to help?" "Keep Emily close and make sure she stays safe," Jackson said. "We've got Clara, but the storm's going to make this tricky. If anything happens, stay calm." The team began their slow, grueling journey through the forest. 2 rescuers carried Clara on the stretcher, their boots slipping in the mud with every step. Jackson led the way, cutting a path through the underbrush with a machete, while another rescuer brought up the rear. Lily held Emily's hand tightly, keeping the girl close as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The rain was relentless, turning the ground into a slippery mess. Branches snapped overhead, and the wind howled, making it difficult to hear anything beyond a few feet. Buddy trotted alongside the stretcher, his tail wagging despite the harsh conditions. Every so often, he glanced back at Emily and Lily, as if checking to make sure they were still there. Clara groaned softly, her head lolling to the side. Jackson paused, his flashlight illuminating her face. "We need to pick up the pace," he said grimly. "She's losing a lot of heat." The rescuers pushed forward, their movements growing more labored as the rain intensified. Lily could feel Emily shivering beside her and pulled the girl closer, wrapping her in her arms as they trudged through the mud. The group reached a narrow creek swollen with rainwater, its current rushing fast and furious. The wooden footbridge that spanned it was old and weathered, its planks slick with moss and water. Jackson hesitated, his flashlight sweeping across the bridge. "We'll have to cross one at a time," he said. "It's not sturdy enough for all of us at once." "I'll go first," one of the rescuers volunteered, stepping cautiously onto the bridge. It creaked under his weight, but it held. He made it to the other side and signaled for the next person to follow. The stretcher was next. The rescuers moved slowly, their every step deliberate as they carried Clara across the precarious structure. The bridge groaned under the weight, and for a heart-stopping moment, one of the planks cracked, sending a splintering sound echoing through the forest. But they made it to the other side, breathless but safe. "All right," Jackson said, turning to Lily and Emily. "Your turn." Lily knelt in front of Emily, gripping her shoulders gently. "We're going to cross the bridge now, okay? I need you to hold my hand and follow me closely. Don't look down and don't let go, no matter what." Emily nodded, her eyes wide with fear but filled with trust. "Okay." Lily led the way onto the bridge, her grip on Emily's hand so tight her knuckles turned white. The planks were slick, and every step felt like a gamble. Halfway across, the wind picked up, whipping at their clothes and threatening to throw them off balance. Then, without warning, one of the planks beneath Lily's foot gave way. She stumbled, her heart leaping into her throat as her foot slipped into the gap. "Lily!" Emily cried, her small hands clutching at Lily's arm. "I'm okay," Lily said quickly, though her pulse was racing. She pulled her foot free and steadied herself, forcing a smile for Emily. "See? I'm fine. Just a little more to go." Buddy barked from the far side of the creek, his tail wagging as if to encourage them. Drawing strength from his determination, Lily pushed forward, guiding Emily the rest of the way across. The group regrouped on the other side, but their relief was short-lived. As they continued through the woods, Lily noticed movement in the shadows. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but then she heard it, a low growl, barely audible over the storm. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to Jackson, who immediately stopped and scanned the area with his flashlight. The beam of light caught a pair of glowing eyes just beyond the trees. A wolf. Its lean, rain-soaked body blended into the darkness, but its presence was unmistakable. "Stay calm," Jackson said, his voice low and steady. "Wolves don't usually attack humans, but they're unpredictable, especially in bad weather." The wolf stepped closer, its movement slow and deliberate. Then another appeared, and another, their eyes reflecting the light like tiny lanterns in the night. Lily's breath hitched. "What do we do?" "Keep moving," Jackson said firmly. "Don't run. Don't make any sudden movements. Just stay together and keep moving." The group pressed on, their pace quickening slightly as the wolves followed, their footsteps eerily silent. Buddy growled low in his throat, his tiny body bristling with defiance as he trotted beside Clara's stretcher. "Good boy," Lily whispered, hoping the little dog's courage would somehow rub off on her. The wolves trailed them for what felt like an eternity, their glowing eyes a constant reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the trees. But as the group neared the edge of the forest, the wolves stopped. One by one, they turned and melted back into the shadows, leaving the rescuers alone once more. Lily let out a shaky breath, her legs trembling with exhaustion. "Are we close?" she asked Jackson. "Just a little further," he said, pointing to a faint light in the distance. "That's the main road. The ambulance is waiting there." The sight of the light gave them all a surge of energy, and they pushed forward with renewed determination. Buddy barked excitedly, running ahead to lead the way. As they reached the road, Lily noticed Clara's breathing had grown even shallower, her face pale and clammy. "We're losing her," she said urgently, her hands trembling as she checked Clara's pulse. The paramedics were already rushing toward them, their equipment in tow. "We'll take it from here," one of them said, his tone brisk but reassuring. As they loaded Clara into the ambulance, Emily burst into tears. "Please don't let her die," she cried, clinging to Lily. "She's in good hands," Lily said, though her voice wavered. She hugged Emily tightly, her heart aching for the little girl. Buddy jumped into the ambulance before anyone could stop him, curling up beside Clara as if refusing to leave her side. The paramedics exchanged glances but allowed him to stay, sensing his presence was more help than hindrance. Lily and Emily watched as the ambulance sped away, its siren cutting through the stormy night. The rescue was over, but the battle for Clara's life had just begun. The hours that followed were some of the longest of Lily's life. She sat in the waiting room of the local hospital with Emily curled up beside her, fast asleep. The storm had finally subsided, leaving the world outside eerily quiet, as though nature itself was holding its breath. Buddy had stayed with Clara, his small frame lying protectively at her side in the ambulance, and Lily found herself hoping that the little dog's devotion could work miracles. A doctor finally emerged from the double doors, his expression a mix of exhaustion and reassurance. "Clara's stable," he said, and Lily felt her knees nearly give way with relief. "The leg fracture was serious, but we've set it. She'll need physical therapy, but she'll make a full recovery. You got her here just in time." Lily exhaled deeply, tears pricking her eyes as she looked down at Emily. She gently shook the little girl awake. "Emily," she said softly, "your mom's going to be okay." Emily blinked up at her, her tired face slowly breaking into a smile. "Really?" "Really," Lily said, her voice breaking slightly. She hugged Emily tightly, feeling the weight of the night's events finally lifting. When Emily and Lily were finally allowed into Clara's room, the scene before them was enough to melt the hardest heart. Buddy was curled up on the bed next to Clara, his head resting gently on her arm. Clara was awake, her face still pale but her eyes warm as she looked at her daughter. "Mom!" Emily cried, rushing to her bedside and throwing her arms around her. "Oh, my sweet girl," Clara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "I was so scared I'd never see you again." "You have Buddy to thank for that," Lily said, stepping into the room with a smile. "He's the one who brought me to Emily and led us to you." Clara reached out to stroke the puppy's head, tears streaming down her face. "You're a little hero, aren't you?" she murmured. Buddy wagged his tail, his eyes bright and proud. News of the rescue spread quickly, and within days, the town of Evergreen was buzzing with talk of Buddy, the hero dog. The local animal shelter received a surge of visitors inspired by Buddy's story, with families eager to adopt pets in need. Donations poured in, funding new programs to rescue and care for abandoned animals. Clara, now recovering at home with Emily by her side, made it her mission to give back. "Buddy saved my life," she told a reporter during an interview, "and now I want to make sure other animals get the same chance to be heroes for someone else." She worked with Lily to launch a program called Buddy's Path, designed to match rescue animals with families in need of emotional support. The initiative became a community-wide effort, with volunteers helping train dogs and organize events to raise awareness about the importance of animal adoption. As for Buddy, he became a beloved figure in Evergreen, often seen trotting alongside Emily on her way to school or lounging in the sun at Clara's feet. His courage and loyalty had changed not just one family's life, but an entire town's perspective on the power of connection between humans and animals. Stories like Buddy's remind us of the incredible bonds we can share with animals and the life-changing impact they can have. If you've ever considered adopting a pet, now is the time to take that step. Every dog or cat waiting at a shelter has the potential to be a hero in someone's life, just like Buddy. Visit your local shelter today or support organizations that rescue and care for animals in need. Together, we can give these incredible creatures the homes and love they deserve. And maybe, just maybe, they'll change your life in ways you never imagined. One crisp autumn afternoon, Lily visited Clara and Emily at their home. Buddy greeted her with a wagging tail and a joyful bark, his energy as boundless as ever. "You've got yourself a celebrity here," Lily teased as Buddy jumped into her lap. Emily laughed. "He's more than a celebrity. He's our family." As Lily looked at the little dog that had brought them all together, she couldn't help but smile. Sometimes, she thought, heroes come in the most unexpected forms, small, muddy, and with wagging tails. And their impact? That changes everything.